Snowflakes drifted gently from the pale morning sky as the city slowly came alive. A thin mist clung to the air, wrapping the quiet streets in a cold, lonely silence. On a wooden bench near the bus stop sat a young woman, her hands trembling as she held a small bundle wrapped in a white blanket. Her lips quivered not from the freezing wind, but from the storm inside her heart. She had been sitting there for hours, her eyes fixed on every passerby, hoping, desperately praying, that someone, anyone, might notice her pain. Her name was Emily, and inside her arms rested her newborn daughter, Lily. Emily's heart ached as she whispered to the baby, her tears mixing with the falling snow. She had run out of options, out of hope, and out of time. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps us spread hope and humanity through stories like this. Emily wasn't always alone. Just months ago, she was full of dreams, an art student painting her future in bright colors. But life had a cruel way of turning dreams into storms. When she told her boyfriend she was pregnant, he vanished without a word. Her parents, ashamed and furious, turned her away. She spent the final months of her pregnancy living in a shelter, surviving on free meals and the kindness of strangers. When Lily was born, Emily felt pure love for the first time, but also pure fear. She looked into her baby's tiny eyes and realized she had no home, no job, and no way to keep her safe. The snow thickened around her as she clutched the baby closer. Her coat was thin, her fingers numb. She had come to that bus stop because she'd seen someone there before, a man who always waited at the same time each morning. A man who smiled gently at people, even strangers. She didn't know his name, but she remembered his face, calm, warm, steady. Today, she was praying that he would come again. As the first bus pulled up and then left, Emily's heart began to sink. Maybe he wasn't coming today. Maybe she had made a mistake. But then, through the swirling snow, she saw him, a tall man in a red shirt, holding a cup of coffee, walking briskly toward the stop. Relief and panic collided in her chest. This was her only chance. The man's name was Daniel. He was in his early 30s, a single father raising his 6-year-old son, Noah, alone after losing his wife to an accident 2 years ago. He worked as a paramedic, someone who saved lives but was still learning how to heal his own wounds. His days were filled with helping others, but his nights were heavy with loneliness. When Daniel noticed the young woman on the bench, he immediately sensed something was wrong. Her lips were pale, her eyes hollow, and she looked as though she hadn't eaten in days. But what caught his attention most was the baby. The little one wasn't crying, just lying there quietly, almost too quietly. He approached slowly, unsure what to say, until Emily looked up and met his eyes. Her gaze was full of desperation. She tried to speak but her voice cracked. "Please," she whispered, barely audible over the wind. I can't take care of her." Her words froze in the air between them. Daniel stood still, unsure he'd heard right. But as tears rolled down Emily's cheeks, he realized she meant every word. She handed the baby forward slightly, her hands trembling. "She deserves a life, warmth, food, love. I can't give her any of that. Please, please, just make sure she's safe." Daniel's heart twisted painfully. He saw the raw truth in her eyes. This wasn't abandonment out of selfishness. It was love in its most painful form. She wasn't running away, she was giving her child a chance to survive. But he couldn't just take someone's baby. There must be another way, he thought. Yet, looking at her, frail, shaking, barely standing, he knew she was at the end of her strength. Daniel sat beside her, covering the baby with his own scarf to keep her warm. He spoke softly, asking where she lived, if she had family. Emily shook her head. "I tried everywhere. No one wants us. I can't even afford milk anymore." Her voice broke. "She'll die if I keep her with me." For a moment, time stood still. The snow fell silently, blanketing the world around them. Daniel looked at the baby, her tiny chest rising and falling beneath the blanket. Then he looked back at Emily, who was staring at the ground, tears dripping onto her cold hands. In that instant, he saw something of himself in her, the same helplessness he had felt when his wife died, the same fear of failing someone you love. Without another word, Daniel took a deep breath and said, "Come with me." Emily looked up, startled. You and the baby. Come home. It's warm there. She hesitated, unsure if she could trust him, but something about his steady voice and kind eyes gave her courage. He helped her stand, and together they walked through the snow-covered streets toward his small apartment. When they arrived, Daniel quickly made warm soup and handed her a blanket. His son, Noah, peeked from the hallway, curious about the strange woman holding a baby. When Daniel introduced them, Noah smiled shyly and said, "She's cute," pointing to Lily. That small moment of innocence melted the tension in the room. Days passed. Emily recovered slowly. Daniel helped her find temporary shelter and guided her through applying for social support. But more than that, he gave her hope, something she hadn't felt in a long time. He watched her sing softly to her baby, her voice trembling yet full of love. For the first time in years, Daniel felt his home fill with warmth again. One afternoon, Emily sat by the window watching the snow melt under the bright winter sun. Lily was asleep in her arms. Daniel came in with coffee, and they talked about the future, hers, Lily's, and maybe even his. Emily said she wanted to work again, to stand on her own feet, to make her daughter proud someday. Daniel nodded, smiling quietly. "You already have," he said. Weeks turned into months. Emily found a part-time job at a local art shop while Daniel and Noah became like family to her. On weekends, they'd walk to the park, watch Lily take her first steps, and laugh together as if life had given them all a second chance. But one evening, Emily received a letter from a women's housing program offering her a permanent home and job training. She was overjoyed, but also heartbroken. It meant leaving Daniel's house. She spent the night watching Lily sleep, tears in her eyes. In the morning, she told Daniel, her voice shaking, "I'll be leaving next week. You've done so much for me. I'll never forget it." Daniel stood quietly, emotions swirling in his chest. He didn't want her to go, but he knew she needed to. He had promised himself that helping her meant helping her stand on her own, not keeping her bound to him. Still, when she packed her bags a few days later, he couldn't hold back his tears. "You gave me back something I thought I'd lost," he said softly. "Hope." As Emily walked away, holding Lily close, she turned back and smiled through her tears. "And you gave us life," she replied. That night, Daniel sat alone with Noah watching the stars through the window. His heart ached, but it was a good ache, the kind that comes from doing something truly right. Months later, Emily sent him a photo, Lily's first birthday, her tiny hands covered in cake, her eyes bright and full of joy. Below it was a short message, "We're safe, we're happy, and we'll always be grateful." If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Every story we tell is a reminder that small acts of kindness can change lives forever. Before you go, tell us in the comments. What would you have done if you were in Daniel's place? Because sometimes, the kindest hearts are found in the most unexpected people, and one act of compassion can rewrite someone's entire life.